Hello everyone, I'm Dennis Henry. Like Dr. Guha said, I'm the Vice President of Operations at hostim.com, which is a local web hosting company, data center management company. I've been there for now 7 years. I worked at UCF before that as a tech ranger, making courses for online learning. So moved on from there to work at Hostim, and I've been there now for, like I said, 7 years, moved up pretty quickly in the ranks there. So, Florida born and raised. I'm a UCF graduate with a degree in information technology. Fun fact, I was featured in Apple's most recent keynote about fitness and the Apple Watch. So I went from this about a year and a half ago to obviously this now. Thank you. By the way, when they mention you at an Apple keynote, you don't get anything free. I figured I would get something. Nothing. No. Didn't even know they were doing it. I'm a huge advocate for technology and its relation to the person. I consider myself a futurist, and that I'm always looking for the next big thing. I was into wearables about 4 or 5 years ago with Pebble. And I've been really into trying to find the next big thing, virtual reality. I have a drone, Oculus Rift, that kind of stuff. It's all very, really big for me, personally. So professionally, who am I? I started at Hostim in May of 2008. Took on the Vice President of Operations role in 2010. I oversee the day-to-day operation of the company. I formerly managed the support department, which is one of the departments I'll talk about today as a career path at Hostim. I became the interim director of development operations in November of last year, and I oversee the day-to-day development operation of the company now too. We develop all of our own in-house systems, so a lot of my time is spent kind of managing that team. I'm also a programmer. I don't really consider myself a programmer, but I do it here and there. There we go. There we go. So, big question, obviously, is in this room, what is your guys' knowledge as far as the cloud, data centers? Like, anyone have any knowledge about that? Even back.
Like data centers in the cloud are basically giant computers that are off-site that other people manage, so you don't have to.
Sure, that's a pretty good assessment of it. Anyone else? Anyone? Well, yeah. Basically, data centers are telecommunications hubs. There's tons across the globe. We operate our own here in Orlando in Maitland. DimeKnock is the name of our data center. Houses more than 6,000, almost 7,000 servers. Servers are what really drive what is everyone known as the cloud. Our data center has redundant power and cooling. That's obviously something that everyone cares about because you don't want to have to manage that yourself. The cloud. This is a terrible term that has been very construed by many different people as many different things. I mean, Wikipedia defines it as a colloquial expression used to describe a variety of different computing concepts that involve a large number of computers that are connected through real-time communication network, typically the internet. That's a very bizarre way to define something. What is it in practice? It's a marketing term. It's trying to simplify a very complex concept, which is outsourced computing. Which is what the gentleman back there basically stated. It's the concept that you don't want to have to know how your hamburger's made. You just want the hamburger. You don't care how the cow's killed. You don't care about any of that. You just want the end result. So you want a website working. Obviously, that's the be-all, end-all. A lot of it is done by virtualization these days. That's what the real cloud sort of concept is. Not so many bare metal servers, but really virtualized servers. And there's different uses by different people. Obviously, consumers have to really define what they decide the cloud is, but that's a general concept of what the cloud is to me. So cloud administration, that's obviously the real career that I'm here to talk about. It's a broad term. There's so many different actual jobs in cloud administration. To administer a data centers, many teams work together to actually make the cloud happen. It's not one team, it's not one group of people. Core responsibilities are very different, but all their different skill sets are required to actually make it work. Support team is one of the first teams I'll talk about. They're our front line of defense at most kind of company like HostTime. They handle the front end client communication with the clients and kind of interface with the higher up teams. Network Operations Center, NOC team. So they're the people that actually physically work with the servers. They handle more lower end software issues like OS reinstalls, that kind of thing, and also handle failures in hardware, which is sadly a very common thing. And then the abuse response team. This is something that maybe some of you are into as far as maybe the scan miner here, that kind of thing. These are our team that actually goes out and seeks out potential security issues, handles hacked accounts, that kind of thing. I'll go into detail about each one of these teams further in. So the support team, like I said, they're our front line of software support for our customers. There are people that kind of pick up the phone, they handle the actual general issues that our clients have. It's dynamic work, moving across a very long range of technologies. This is the team that I started in about, like I said, 7 years ago at HostTime. I started in the support team as a support technician 1. Moved up through the team, became a support manager eventually. Some of the issues that you hear about is my website's not loading, or my website showing an error, or my Thunderbird's not downloading email. The fun thing is, even though the problems are relegated to very simple questions like this, they're almost certainly far more complex when you get down to the brass tacks of them. Some major core technologies that are involved in this job, I mean, you're talking about Apache, which is a web server, you're talking about MySQL, which is a database server, cPanel, proprietary control panel, Dovecot, and ProFTPD. These are all base level technologies that the modern web is built off of. Especially something like Apache or something like MySQL. The vast majority of websites you go to use these technologies, and so does HostTime, obviously. So some of the support team responsibilities that come in this career path, basically maintaining the stable client experience. We want to make sure our clients stay up. Someone may be doing a sale for their e-commerce website or something like that. You need to make sure it stays up during that. Nobody wants to have downtime. Supporting our clients' hosting services, troubleshooting support inquiries, basically making sure that every part of the web stack is working. So whether it's DNS, the ability for someone type in google.com and it respond with an IP address, this kind of stuff, all the way down to making sure the web server actually replies properly. The MySQL server gives over the database content to the MySQL or the web server. Mail and other systems are also involved. Escalating issues, obviously, this is just one level of what is a real big onion when it comes to data center management. Responsive and adaptive communication, you have to be able to change your line of communication sometimes because there's a lot of interesting clients that you may have to deal with. Server and incident management and adding resources. Obviously, the old saying goes, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. That's a big thing when it comes to technology, and especially in IT. You teach your client something about how to administer their server, maybe they're not going to come back to you next time. That's one less ticket you have to do. The qualities of a good support technician, at least here at HostTime: loving technology, desire to learn new things. That again goes to that futurist concept.
Have you ever ran into a client or situation where a fish ends up burning their house down?
It's funny you ask that because there's a constant argument at HostTime. Is the how to teach a man to fish thing. Because if you teach them, yeah, exactly, too much, if you give them a little too much of a taste, yeah, they could destroy the place. And that's why the way that we do it, at least, and the resources that we prepare for our clients are very focused. They're very targeted in a way that hopefully prevents burning down the house sort of problem. You can only give people so many safeguards though. But yeah, absolutely. It's a constant balance trying to find between going too far and not far enough with teaching a client something. But yeah, there's some of the key qualities of a good support technician in support, all the way up to eventually the support manager of the department. Actually, I was the first support manager, but before I was just a ragtag group of ruffians. But there's a lot you can, you all have the slides or they were posted somewhere, so you can always read through this in more detail if you're genuinely curious about the career path at Hostein. And these are the highest level roles in that path. So I'm going to do an eye clicker question because, you know, that's fun. So obviously the question is, which of the following responsibilities seem the most interesting to you? I mean, there's a lot of different things that they do, but these are all very different parts of the job. So I'm going to start it, but oh no, what does that mean? I'm just going to press close. Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, these are the 4 answers. I'm going to move this over so you can read. Maintaining stable client service, troubleshooting support inquiries, acting as a medium, meaning kind of being that intermediary between the higher level staff and the client, and documenting best practices, meaning that whole teaching a man to fish thing. I'll leave that open for a few more minutes. Okay, so it's pretty evenly split between A and C, which is what I figured. Maintaining the service and acting as an intermediary. Honestly, those are my 2 favorite parts too. So it's pretty funny that those are how we split it. But yeah, so that's the support team, which is, like I said, one part that I'm going to go over of the team. So the NOC team. So these are the people that basically handle the frontline hardware support. This is probably more what you guys are thinking when you think servers, when you think data centers, when you think the cloud, that kind of stuff. They handle, they actually work from our data center in Maitland, and they handle everything physically. Some sample issues that they can see, and these are just very, very brief overview. My server is not up, obviously. They can't get to their websites. The support team can't get to it either. They're at a remote location. They can't remote into that server. Hey, NOC team, what's up? That's going to take the team member going out to the server, going and finding it in the rows and rows and rows of cabinets, looking for it, finding its location, plugging in a monitor to it, plugging in a keyboard, and then what do they see? That could be potentially just a simple software issue, hopefully, or it could be a hardware issue, bad RAM, servers on fire, all kinds of fun stuff that can come out of that. There's very low-level software issues too, corrupted boot sector, the OS is no longer loading. These are all things that they have to be able to troubleshoot. So if a really complex issue comes in, they sometimes have to take the server, walk it to, we have a room called the build room, and then take it apart, open it up. Oh, there's a transistor that's burnt out on this motherboard. Suddenly that turns into a much more complicated solution than the OS won't boot, which might just be rebuilding a piece of software called Grub that acts as a bootloader. A server's not up and having intermittent networking issues. That becomes a real big interesting situation, because then you actually have to look at, okay, how is the networking stack interfacing here? How is the switch connected to this server? Is there maybe an issue with this Ethernet cable? Is it old? Is it brittle? Are they connecting using fiber? Is that fiber having an issue? Is one of the heads of the fiber not working anymore? These are all things that they need to troubleshoot and figure out to actually troubleshoot the networking issue that they may be having. So some of the required skills of a good NOC technician, I mean, you have to know hardware, obviously. I mean, you all, raise a hand. How many of you have built your own computer? You're IT students. Yeah, I would assume the vast majority. think that, but multiply it by 1,000 times, because servers are just overly complex desktops. They're typically much more compact as far as their 1U system, so they're about 1 inch tall by like 19 inches deep. So you have this, this overly complex, over-engineered system that you then have to actually align your system to work with. So you have hard drives, you have motherboard, you have all the same stuff that you would have in a desktop, but aligned in a different way. So you have to know how to assemble a server, to upgrade a server. You have to know how to be able to switch the processor out, which, let's do a little thing. When you're switching a processor, what's the most important thing that you need to do when you're putting the new processor and the heatsink on? Anyone?
Electrically ground yourself.
That's a good part, but what do you put between the processor and the heatsink? Yes, yes, don't ever forget that. That's one of the things that has caused us a lot of problems, is when a newer NOC technician forgets that one key step, and then the server overheats pretty quickly. Software, obviously, low-level software. You're talking about installing a variety of operating systems. I mean, in the desktop world, Windows is obviously king, but in the server world, Linux is king. 98%, I would say, of the 6,000 to 7,000 servers in our data center run Linux. But even in Linux, you have this massive array of possibilities as far as needing to know how to install and troubleshoot the installation problems that may come with it. You need to also really need to be able to understand the low-level problems that can come from the OS, and the OS uniquely. You need to learn about file system maintenance, file system checks, making sure that the file system is proper and secure, because what's one of the worst things that can happen with a server? Data loss. Someone loses a bit of data that they need, that they need to continue their business. They lose an order. That could be thousands of dollars to them. That's a big deal. And then networking. Understanding the layers of networking, OSI levels, layers 1 through 4. Anyone know the OSI? You guys passed that yet? Okay, maybe not. Learning the actual OSI levels and really understanding how the network is built, and all the different layers that you need to understand of that. Configuring IP addresses, laying out physical topology as far as networking between a server and a switch and a router and the actual internet. And then troubleshooting network problems, pings, trace routes. These are probably things you've all done when your mom calls you and she can't get on the internet, those kinds of things. So general duties that come with a NOC team role. Monitoring, dealing with reboot requests, people contacting us saying, hey, I can't get to my server, and you have to physically go deal with it. Investigating the root cause of issues. This is where the CSI stuff kind of comes in, where you have to try to figure out what happened. Why is this server down? What actually occurred? And then you trace and you pull back the layers and try to find, this is the actual reason the server went down, not this list of symptoms that you saw, but this little part, that's why it went down. Auditing. This is proactively looking out for problems. Trying to see a problem before it happens, like a RAID may be degraded. A RAID array, which is I don't know how much you guys know. So a RAID array being an array of drives put all together to make one big drive. So a RAID array, one of the drives may be degraded. You have to troubleshoot that issue. And you can get it fixed before they lose data. Something important to know. Maintenance, these are scheduled upgrades. These are people saying, I want my server upgraded at this time because this is the lowest time of my activity. So you can take my server down for an hour and upgrade it. So this is our team, or this is the part of the job that would actually be handling that. Emergency hardware replacements, the aforementioned server burning situation could be that. So, and then control is obviously the last thing. It's a physical security kind of thing. You need to know where everyone is in the building at all times. You need to make sure that you're constantly being aware of everything around you at the NOC, because obviously in this day and age, people are always looking for ways to get into companies. Intrusion detection, you need to make sure you know if the physical security of your building is safe, and the NOC team is partially responsible for that. So this is the career path. Obviously, it's much more condensed than the support team. You just move up, and system administrators they're basically the Jedi of our company. They're the people that can solve any sort of problem that comes their way, and I'm not quite sure how sometimes. They just figure it out. So I'm going to do another eye clicker question because you guys paid for them, so might as well use them, right? So, I don't know. Go away. I'm going to do this. Okay, so these are the questions. Which of the following is most interesting to you of all the duties that I just outlined? Monitoring, which is the proactively seeking issues, watching what's going on, auditing, which is preparing and reviewing reports, maintenance, which is actually getting your hands dirty, getting in there, fixing problems that happen, or control, acting as the eyes and ears of the data center, really kind of getting down to making sure that nobody's getting into the data center that shouldn't be there, that you're aware of everyone that's in the data center at any given time, and that kind of deal. So let's see what we're at. Okay, so the vast majority of you are at maintenance. That is a fun part of the job. Leave it open for another like 15 seconds. Nobody wants to do auditing. Come on. 4 of you, 3 of you, no? You guys changing your answers? Okay, I'll close this now. Okay, so yeah, the vast majority of you like the maintenance part, understandably. When I think about IT, I think about the maintenance part of the job. I think about getting my hands dirty, getting in a server, tearing it apart, and figuring out what's broken in it. That's definitely my favorite part as well. Okay, so the last team, this one may be the most interesting to some of you. Abuse being what it is, security being what it is. Our abuse response analysts, they troubleshoot issues related to these, and this is a small subset of items: resource abuse, hacked accounts, illegal or content against our terms of service, and spam. Resource abuse, what is it? It's a user abusing the amount of resources that they're allowed to have. Someone trying to do more than they should be able to, taking over more of the CPU than they should be able to, more of the disk space than they should be able to, that kind of thing. This is mostly applicable to shared and VPS accounts, virtual private servers. Hacked accounts, this is where the real CSI stuff comes in, because this is getting down to, oh no, my page has a laughing skeleton man. Why did that happen? And then trying to figure out how exactly it got hacked, securing the hole, and then helping the client get their data back up and running to the point where it was last working. That's a really fun part of the job, analyzing log files, that kind of thing. Spam incidents outbound, so this is our clients sending spam, trying to figure out who's doing it, why are they doing it, and locking them down, getting them to stop doing it, obviously, because we can get on blacklists, and blacklists are very bad for IP addresses. Inbound spam, obviously, helping our clients protect from spam. Nobody likes to get spammed, so helping our clients protect against that is obviously part of the job. And then illegal content. This is probably the worst part of the job as far as the abuse response team goes, because sometimes you have to deal with terrible things such as child pornography, hate speech. We are a free speech host, so we allow speech, but only until it enters into the realm of advocating violence. That's where we draw the line as a company. But also dealing with DMCA's, which is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which has to do with you guys sharing your movies and such on torrents and that kind of thing. Not that you would never do that. And then server hardening, PCI compliance. This is protecting the server so it never becomes intruded. This is a really cool part of the job, prevent it before it becomes an issue. And then this goes along with server hardening, firewall, configuration management of firewalls, software firewalls, and hardware firewalls. Adjusting, creating rules to handle different kinds of attacks. So useful knowledge that goes into abuse response analysts, Linux command line, bash scripting in general, Python scripting. This is huge because your job is going to take so much longer if you don't know how to script, if you don't know how to bash, if you don't know how to use the command line. Regular expression, regex, this is something that goes into finding hacked files, being able to locate a hack with a single command using a good regex. Amazing. knowledge of common web vulnerabilities, constantly being up to date. What new vulnerability is there out there? Is it the ghost this time, or is it whatever silly name some marketing guy comes up with for a random vulnerability that comes about? Knowing about that, the LAMP stack and IT protocols in general. Knowing what port 53 is used for. Port 53, anyone? DNS. 443, secure web traffic, all this kind of stuff. Knowing every port and exactly what it's used for. So then when you're looking at intrusions, you're knowing, okay, this IP is available. Should it be available? Is that maybe an attack vector for a person to get through? So the career path is very simple for abuse response. They don't really have levels. They're very much I don't know. They just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. There is a more advanced team within abuse and security called the network security operations. They do some insane stuff with hardware security. So they're talking about hardware firewalls, talking about configuring routers and that kind of thing to protect at a very high level of the network. So another iClicker question. Last one, I promise, I think. So this one is, which of the following of the responsibilities is most interesting to you? Resource abuse, which is acting as the guardians of host time services, making sure that nobody's using more than their fair share. Hacked account remediation, dealing with, like I said, the laughing skeleton man on your website, making sure he's taken off and dealt with. Spam, both inbound and outbound, helping protect people from Cialis ads and all those kind of things. Illegal content handling, acting as an advocate for those that are being victimized by users in the host time data center, working to resolve those legal issues, copyright infringement, child pornography, and then server hardening, kind of protecting the servers before they get hacked, dealing with the problems before they get to one of the other levels there of hacked account or spam, kind of preventing it before it gets there. Oh man, nice and even this time. We got open for another like 15 seconds because I talked a little long. Okay, that seems about good. Okay, so biggest answer here is server hardening. Surprising. It's a really unique part of the job, so it's interesting you guys answered that. Hacked account remediation is definitely always going to be up there because it's a very, very fun part as far as if you're into security, if you're into, like I said, the CSI kind of stuff, trying to find how this guy got into this account and what did they do and how did they do it, and then being able to protect against it.
What's the biggest DDoS attack you've had to deal with?
The biggest?
Yeah.
Oh man. We have, coming into our data center right now, we have about 50 gigabit. We can take that all the way up to 140 right now, just based on the providers we had. The biggest attack was 37. It took down a massive amount of our data center as soon as it came in. Luckily, we have a hardware DDoS protection device called an Arbor. And we had someone on shift that was properly trained in it. So able to block it in about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, but it was massive. It was all because some guy was hosting some government website for some random country, and this hacker group decided that that was not a good government anymore. So yeah, 37, massive.
I mean, what if someone's doing something like DNS amplification? With if your largest is 37, that DNS amplification is really simple to do, and that's upwards of 300.
The good thing about DNS amplification is that there's protection against that. Minimal though, but if you have good control over your servers, you can do some good blocking using port 53 on the network level so that the port amplification can't actually get out of the network. It can screw around with servers in a network and screw around with individual VLANs, but if you block it properly at the network level, at the actual router level, it won't get out and it won't start affecting other people.
I mean, when the DNS amplification is incoming traffic,
yeah.
DNS requests, you can't block against that.
You can block against it if you know what you're expecting. Again, you have to analyze the attack. You have to analyze where the port traffic's coming from, and then block it there. Above like before it gets down to the servers, because yeah, the servers aren't going to be able to do anything with
Yeah,
it.
but if they spoof with like Google or something, then you can't block those requests.
Yeah, I mean, we dealt with one that we eventually just had to listen to the guy a little bit to see what he wanted. I forgot what the specific situation was, but he had some gripe with someone who was on our network that was doing something illegal anyway in our network. So I don't want to say we negotiated with the terrorist, but we took down the content because it was bad anyway. But yeah, you're right. DNS amplification is a terrible thing to deal with. So, quick review. What is the cloud? I mean, the cloud is not some mystical place that there's no servers, no people. It's just cloudy. It's rather a collection of technologies and people trained in those technologies that are coordinated to provide uptime, stability, and service to a customer. The mystery comes in when the client doesn't know anything about the backend. It's literally that whole, I just want a hamburger. I don't want to know about anything else to happen. Just give me my hamburger. There's a lot of clients like that don't want to know anything about the backend. They just want to know, they want to have their website up and running so they can serve their cat site or whatever random thing they may have. Classes that you're taking at UCF will directly prepare you for many of the roles in data center management. Listen to your professors when they talk about new current technologies that come into play. A lot of them will be ones that you heard about here today, because really there's a lot of key knowledge that you can pick up. Data center cloud management is a career path in IT that's definitely here to stay. There's some parts of IT that are a little more tertiary. There's things that come and go, but data centers will always be here. There always has to be a physical place for servers to exist. We'll never get to a place, I don't think, that servers can just be nowhere. Everyone has to have a server to even put their cloud on top of. Amazon's web services, AWS, they have massive data centers that obviously house those physical servers that then you build your cloud off of. Data centers will always exist in some way. And learning the technologies that power them, even if you don't go into data center management, will help you in your IT careers. If you end up being the IT guy at some random company, you're still going to need a data center to help you out with maybe their company website, maybe offloading some of your IT services, your Active Directory server, something off-site, so that way you have that kind of backup. Learning about data centers and the cloud is going to help you in that. Host time has many varied positions, obviously, depending on what you're most interested in and your knowledge level. They're all focused in data center and cloud management, obviously. Support team is a great way to learn about the core competencies. It's our very key entry-level job where you can kind of grow your knowledge and learn. The NOC team is a great way to learn about hardware and root-level software operating systems that the web is built on. Every single website you go on is going to be based on something that a NOC team member might know about. And then the abuse response team. This is a great path if you're really interested in security, knowing about the very dynamic field that is information security and information protection of your security. And how important knowing that your data is secured. I mean, we hear about how many different companies getting hacked every other day, where your credit card's been compromised, or you get a call from Bank of America, hey, we're sending you a new credit card because your other one was used somewhere that got compromised. Like, that's something that is so important for everyone to understand about, let alone in the IT field. So to learn more about careers, obviously at Hosttime in IT, hosttime.com/jobs. We're always hiring. Good place to work. Yeah. So I'll open up here for any questions. If anyone has anything for me.
So since you guys are basically, you run a big data center,
Yeah.
I'm guessing you use VMware?
No, we actually don't use VMware at all. We're very much focused on open source.
Okay.
So almost everything we use is based on open source technologies, be it KVM as far as virtualization platforms go,
Right.
Zen, OpenVZ, all things that are open source, and we contribute back to these open source concepts because truly, in my opinion at least, it's the best way for the web to grow, is not behind someone's paywall, not behind someone's closed curtain, as it were.
Okay. And then a follow-up to that. How much of your data center is virtualized? Is it in the high 90s or is it closer to 70?
Not as much as it could be. Because honestly, a lot of what we do is we offer space for people to do what they want to do with it. Right now, there's a lot of, there's like a renaissance of bare metal, meaning people actually going back to the bare metal servers because you see big sites like Reddit go down, and where are they entirely? Virtualized. Whereas bare metal servers, you have a lot more reliability. You don't have so many possible points of failure. The cloud kind of exposes you to a lot of failure potential. And there's good ways around it, but bare metal always will allow you to just rack a new server, put it in, and then you can deploy it instantly using something like Puppet or an automation platform like that.
So do you guys like say like I want to like host a server out on like host time? Would I like if I'm a virtual server, would I be in a cluster with other people who pay for that?
Depends on what you want. Like the good thing about what we offer at least is we offer everything. We offer tiny little shared account for your dog's website, all the way up to here's a cabinet, throw your servers in it. So on a virtualization level, we offer VPSs where potentially you're on a node with a bunch of other VEs sharing resources a little bit, or you're on a node with maybe a lot less VEs and you're not sharing any resources points. We gear ourselves towards everyone. We try to make it so no matter what you need, you got it.
How do you manage hosting and data loss with an office in Hong Kong?
It's a good question. The data center in Hong Kong is actually amazing in the essence that we partner with a facility there. We actually don't have our own facility in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
We partner with the facility, and they are absolutely amazing with caring about our customers' data. They have a lot of team members there that have the exact same training that we have here, but over there. So they handle a lot of our clients who want that sort of duplicate site data off-site, very off-site, to serve like the Asian market. The only problem is obviously when you get into the Hong Kong, China situation. Hong Kong's luckily not technically China, not behind the Great Wall of China, or the Great Firewall of China. So they are not subject to the problems of that. We've tried to break into China, but God, they hate American companies over there. So we have never been able to do that, get behind the Great Firewall and actually be able to offer services in China. One day, hopefully.
You actually call it the Great Firewall?
The Great Firewall of China, that's the word. That's not me, that's what they call it. They being the internet people. Anyone else have any questions? An open book. Kind of. Okay.
So you want to say how many countries you have?
Oh. Sure, so yeah, host times in, right now we're in 4 different countries physically, meaning we actually have data centers in these countries. We have obviously a data center here in the United States over in Maitland. We have a facility we co-locate out of in Los Angeles. We have 1 data center actually built in Mexico. We have 1 data center in Brazil, and we're finishing our 2nd data center there in Brazil. So Brazil being our biggest international market and tons of growth available in Brazil. We have a data center in India. That's also a massive market for us to grow in because of the fact that India is so low of an adoption rate on technology that there's only so far to go with it. And they have a massive population and it's growing every day. And then we have a presence in the UK, and we have a presence, like before mentioned, in Hong Kong that is very small, but hopefully growing. The UK being one of our focus countries right now, too.
So you said you're free speech hosting?
We consider ourselves a free speech
So
host.
do you have like a warrant canary, or how do you deal with like national security letters? I mean, you can't talk about them, but do you have something like a warrant canary so you don't talk about them, but still?
Yeah, there's a clause on our terms of service that states that we have never been served a national security letter. Obviously, you know that I can't say anything else,
Yep.
but I can say that we have never been served. Hopefully, we never are. But God knows the government.
On the networking side, let's say like I say I want to outsource my intranet.
Okay.
So I want my server to be behind your firewall.
Yeah.
How will you, like, are you going to whitelist my IP? Like, put me through a load balancer to let me talk to my server?
Yeah, exactly. That's a lot of our clients do that. They have their own private networks inside our data center. So they send us their switch, or we provide them a switch, and they have their own cluster of servers that they use internally. And then the only IP that can get to that is your IP for your office. So we have a lot of customers and clients that do that offload their entire IT infrastructure. So rather than having a server closet, which is so common in small business, don't ever do it. A server closet with like a rat's nest of cabling and such, they offload it all to us, and they just throw it in our data center where we care about the power, we care about the internet, and they just need to care about that point-to-point connection. That's actually how our current office in our main office, our corporate office in Research Park here, we have a point-to-point fiber connection of 1 gigabit from our office to the data center, where we actually have all of our actual IT infrastructure for that office. So it allows us to be kind of duplicative with our services.